Thank you so much for tuning in today to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Today, you're listening to The Digital Leap with your host, CookieTruth and
Blanche Drayton Robinson, the Watcher.
That's right. So we are so happy to be here today. Today's episode is sponsored by God's For You, a nonprofit organization giving back to teachers who are just so underlooked in our society, underpaid as well. We like to support the teachers, and God's For You does just that by helping raise funds for those teachers that are trying to get supplies for their classes
and those that are in need that we see.
Of course. I was just going to mention how we have connections over in Nairobi, Kenya, and we're aiming to build even more relationship there in order to just help support people that look like us that are just not being able to meet their own needs sometimes due to life circumstances,
and we all know that we all face difficulties from time to time, be it financial, emotional, whatever. We want to be able to extend a helping hand in whatever way we can, because we never know when we may need help, and that's what we always need to be mindful of, is that don't be selfish.
It's definitely time that we love one another by way of actionable things.
Absolutely.
Support.
Yes.
So thank you to God's For You for sponsoring today's episode. If you want to learn more, you can visit online at godsforyou.us. That's godsforyou.us.
Amen.
Thank you to today's sponsor.
Yes. And so now we want to kind of bring you into a segment where we're going to try to offer some help for anyone who may have difficulty trying to get started. And I'm talking about, we're in the middle of December. January.
Yeah,
my
time
goodness.
is moving just that fast. It's 2023, baby.
Oh my goodness. So just think, 23 years ago, we were talking about Y2K everything's going to collapse. What a leap we have taken from
we
there.
We thought the whole world was about to be desolate. And when 1999 was crossing over to the 2000s.
We just thought everything was going to just...
And I'm not talking about juvenile, y'all, for those that are listening. My goodness.
And Y2K, and look, 23, my goodness. But yes, and as we are in the middle of January, and many of you, I know, when the year came in, you were talking about different things you wanted to accomplish, and that takes planning. And we want to just kind of give you some ideas and means of ways just to help you along for those who may have difficulty.
Yeah, I like to call these practical steps.
Amen.
Tools to help people just break things down into actionable steps.
So you can be successful, because a lot of times we don't reach the success we would like to reach, because sometimes we lack the tools, or sometimes we are not exposed to the tools needed.
And it can be challenging sometimes for people to think of those actionable steps on their own.
Yes.
Because maybe sometimes you're just such a creative minded person that you're just way light years ahead into your idea. You're living in that idea so much that sometimes, backtracking is difficult in order to break down those steps.
And you skip steps sometimes because you're so eager and you want to get to the end before you do the middle part sometimes.
Because you get excited.
Yeah, the excitement sometimes overrules, and we don't always see everything or every step that needs to be taken. So hopefully we can offer some help to kind of get this year 23 moving in a positive and successful direction.
Because I feel like we want to progress. We want to continue to get better. And one thing that I always tell my clients, my coaching clients, is that if you are able to have a strategy, if you're able to have like a plan, you can really accomplish way more than you even think, because it can really, really hone in the gifts and the creativity and the vivaciousness that you bring to whatever it is that you're doing. Having a strategy, having a plan can feed into that even more and make you just way more productive. It exponentially increases your productivity to have a plan.
Yes.
So we're excited about today's episode, right?
Yes.
I know I am, because these are things that are good for us. These are things that are helpful.
Definitely.
So I know that we're going to be diving into this a whole lot today, but before we do that, we definitely want to continue to pray for the Hamlin family, Damar Hamlin, number 3 from our beloved Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia over here, y'all. Hate to break it to you. Hate to break it to you. Not really. We're Bills Mafia over here all day, every day, twice on Sunday. But yeah, our hearts go out to just our team and his family, because what we witnessed on Monday night football, a week and a few days ago now, has just changed us, I think. And some of it for the better, I will say, because in my opinion, I think it has united people to have a cause to latch on to and to be able to unify.
And to see how fragile life is, because sometimes we are so caught up in the mundane things of life, we don't realize how fragile life is, and we get so caught up in our everyday things that we don't appreciate all that life has to offer, and how blessed we are to be able to have breath in our bodies. And so
we take things for granted.
And I think that this is a wake-up call for all of us to really realize.
I think my favorite part, if you have to take, I guess the good out of a bad situation, would be just the unity that has happened. The people who have, I guess, a bit of humility hits you when life becomes just such a vapor. But you end up realizing, like, man, we really got to band together, because it's bigger than football. Yes, it's bigger than one person. Yes, but it takes these things sometimes to unite us. And I think that's been my biggest takeaway, is the unity that has happened, and how it's brought fandoms together, is brought, communities together. I mean, even so much, Mom, I don't know that you would have seen this, but I'm a fantasy football fan, and I saw fantasy football teams donating their earnings to Damar Hamlin's nonprofit organization, Chasing Millions. And I just thought that was just so cool, because it's just this small gesture, but it's what they could do, and they did it.
And, we in talking about humanity, this is what humanity is all about. And we just can't get so caught up. And I think sometimes, unfortunately this happened, but some good can come out of it, and that's what we need to look at, as unfortunate as what we witnessed.
Right.
We can look at it from a positive perspective, and seeing the good that is coming out of it, and the humanity. And we always want to remember that. And if I were to just ask everyone listening to just remember the word humanity, let's not forget that.
Don't take it for granted.
Don't take it for granted.
We are just people trying to figure it out, trying to do the best that we can. And no one's perfect, and not everybody is out to do the right thing all the time, but be a person that remembers humanity and tries to do the best that they can with what they have, because I mean, when it's over, it's over. And for those of you that may not be familiar with the Damar Hamlin situation, it was Monday Night Football a week and a few days ago, the Buffalo Bills versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And they were actually in Cincinnati, Ohio, when right there after a regular play, nothing crazy really truly happened during the play itself, just a regular tackle, and this young man at 24 years old, we later found out, went into cardiac arrest right there on the field, and they had to do CPR and use an AED and everything in order to make sure that he was able to get, his heart back up and running.
To bring life back into his body.
Right. And so, that's a very traumatic thing to witness, even as a fan watching.
Oh, my goodness.
And I can't imagine as the players, where they're seeing someone that they love. Yeah, the family being right there in the stands. I couldn't even imagine.
As a parent, I can't even imagine just to see that happened to my child. It's just got to
just
take
the
you
panic and the angst of it,
Yeah.
So
and witnessing that, I'm always mindful of the word of God.
Yeah.
And we are living in this world, and so much evil is taking place. And I hate to say evil, but it just makes you see it that way,
Yeah.
And the word of God found in Matthew 24:12, it says, because of the increase of wickedness, the love of many will wax cold.
Yeah.
And we could see that. And
in other words, people are desensitized.
Yes, but because of what happened on Monday night, It brought back.
It was a spark of humanity.
Yes. Yes. And that's why we have to, that's why I say, remember the word humanity. I don't care what goes on, how much lack that may be, you may face or whatever. Remember humanity. Remember that, where there is a will, there's a way. Yeah. And I, as a child growing up, that was always something that my dad always would say, and he always encouraged us to know that despite how difficult it is, it's going to get better.
For sure.
And you can hold on to that. And we saw it manifest every day because, yes, I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't, there were 11 of us and we grew up in groups per se, but everyone pretty much faced the same lack, growing up. And I thank God that we were able to see the manifestation of the power of God working. And with people praying for Damar, I believe that that's the best thing that we can do right now. Yeah. I keep saying I see miracles.
It's the best thing because it's one of those things I don't know that people really critically think through what prayer can do for themselves. Like, it's beautiful that you can be selfless in a sense and pray for someone else, but there is something that you're getting out of it when you pray as well.
Yes.
And you are now opening yourself up to communicate with God, to communicate whether on behalf of a person you know or don't know, you're still communicating with God on behalf of another person. And that can change you. It can soften your heart. It can cause you to open up and bring that humanity back to you. And in a world where we are so desensitized to evil or desensitized to bad news, and we're skeptical of everything. We want to question everything. And not to say that questioning some things is even bad. It's just a time and a place. Right. However, prayer is something that can be the bridge to really soften people's heart, to remember others and prioritizing others in a way that is not selfish, in a way that is not fulfilling or narcissistic. And that's so important.
And I think of this all the time and how wonderful this has been set in motion for us to pray, because we do not have to bring a sacrifice. Yeah. There is nothing that
I'm grateful.
I am so grateful that we do not
want to slay no lambs or no chickens.
But then just think about it, with the selfishness that you see in people who have much. Would you think that you would be able to afford to get a sacrifice, to purchase? That's another thought that always comes to my mind. If you do not have the means, but you want to go before the throne, but you got to get a sacrifice before you can do that.
Yeah, how you going to be able to afford
what position
that? So thankfully that obstacle has been removed.
Hallelujah.
That's a blessing.
Yes, it is.
And I tell you, I ain't carrying no lamb up no hill. I ain't doing it.
You know what?
I ain't going along with that riding or walking.
You know what?
But I agree. I think that is important that we recognize how powerful prayer is, just again from a very practical standpoint, because we can get very deep and spiritual about a lot of things, but you'll lose people because they can't wrap their heads around what you're talking about at a certain point.
Because everybody's not at the same level either. Exactly. And so you got to be very careful. You got to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, and what we do and say.
True.
Yeah, so and that scripture that says that, and so we need to be mindful about a lot of things in life, period, that we don't. And I think when we were talking on last week, talking about the mental health of a situation, we have to be sensitive to different people's mental state, because let's face it.
Be sensitive to others' mental state as well as your own, and not ignoring what it is that you're going through,
and
getting
hiding
help.
it. Yes, and being concerned about what others think and all of this. It's time out for us to face reality and just be real and get the help that we need.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that there's been a lot of emotions, and there's been a lot of good things said, and then of course there's always negative things that have been said over the course of time that this has all taken place. However, if we remember the good, if we remember to pray, and we remember these practical things of how prayer can soften our hearts and make us to be better as well, then I think if we can focus on those things, you know, the saying, an attitude of gratitude, I think that can be what takes precedence for us as individuals.
And it'll take our stony hearts and give us a heart of flesh.
Oh, look at the Tin Man. Look at the Tin Man just going ahead and getting all lubed and nice and flowing. But no, really, guys, we are definitely praying for the Hamlin family. We're praying for the Bills. Yes. We're just praying for all the people that have been affected and traumatized in this way. Because it is serious and it is a matter of the heart, literally and figuratively, honestly, like a matter of the heart because it was cardiac arrest, and also a matter of the heart because of the fact that people have to work through being desensitized in order to really care. Yes, and that's a matter of the heart. And we pray for Jeremy Renner, the actor, the Marvel. Well, I know him from Marvel as well as the Jason Bourne movies as well. And he was in a major accident, had to have two emergency surgeries, and is recuperating. So definitely praying. If you guys have prayer requests of your own, definitely inbox God's For You on Instagram, because we want to take those seriously, and we'll be addressing those in another way very, very soon. But I didn't want to lose track of that. And I want to remind you guys that you can send your prayer requests to God's For You on Instagram. So that's at God's For You. But we'll be right back. We have a great topic for you, and we want to make sure that we dive in. And we thank you so much for tuning in today to the Digital Leap, y'all. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. For those streaming live, we appreciate you. Please share with your family and friends on Apple Music, TuneIn Radio, and more. And we're back with the Digital Leap. We're your hosts, CookieTruth and
Blanche Drayton Robinson, the Watcher.
Yes, and today's topic is about making a plan, and we'll get more into the specifics, because obviously that's a little vague, a little broad, and you'll see why. But we're going to give you guys some practical steps, tools, and tips about making a plan and what that looks like in order to get some productivity, some positive results. And I think this is going to be real helpful, because these are the kinds of things that I talk to all the time with my clients. These are the type of things that you want to just have as you're a working adult, whether you have your own business or whether you just want to be more productive with your family life, those kind of things. So go ahead, Mom, let's dive right on in.
Okay, thank you for tuning in once again. We are so happy to have you listening, because we just love being able to share and just to be helpful if we can. And that's what this going into this new year is all about, because we start off with gigantic plans of what we would like to accomplish, and all of these different ideas that we have, and sometimes when we get maybe halfway, it's gone out of the window. And
because we love our little New Year's resolutions, child, and I don't know how much we be revolutioning or whatever, but we want to help with that.
Yes, we do. And the one thing that I want to start out, because I heard this long ago, and I know that many of you, when I quote it, you would say, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. And it says that he who fails to plan plans to fail. And that's a Winston Churchill quote. And I believe it says a lot that we need to take time out and plan or prepare what it is that we want to do, and have an end plan and follow it, because a lot of times you have to write things down, because when you say in your mind, you have all this stuff in your mind.
It's a lot of ideas rolling around there, and especially if you're like a heavy dreamer, there's always something rolling around in there.
Absolutely. But I'm reminded of the scripture in Habakkuk, the second chapter. It says, write the vision and make it plain.
Oh, we'll get to that in just a minute. You just wait and see.
Yes.
But before you go too far, because that I think is our number 2 step. We got to give them number 1. Hit them with number 1 real quick.
Yes, number 1 is where to start.
Exactly.
That's
why we gotta start with step numero uno.
Where to start.
Yeah, because starting is the first step, obviously. Literally is the first step.
Absolutely.
And the only way that you can even get to that first step is to just sometimes sit with yourself and think, okay, what is my plan of of like my own future? What is the goal rather of what my future should be? What is it that I want to accomplish?
What am I interested in?
Yeah, because see, sometimes we hear it a lot, especially if you've, ever been interviewed for a job and they'll ask you, what's your plan? Your 5-year plan, what's your 3-year plan or whatever. They'll ask you, well, at least in some cases, they'll ask you those kind of things to see exactly what you're made of in a sense and how you think, right? But do we ask ourselves those questions? Do we sit with ourselves and ask, okay, maybe 3-year, 5-year plan is a little bit too advanced, a little bit too far ahead. Maybe I need to, scale it back and say over the next 3 months, what goal do I want to accomplish? What do I see happening? Right. Yeah. Like for myself, what do I want to accomplish basically? And so you just start small with that being your goal. And it doesn't have to be outrageous. Like, oh, I want a BMW or Mercedes. If that's not where you are in life, it can start very, very simple and practical. Like, oh, I want to save $100. Whatever that is for you guys, whatever that number one step is of whatever your goal is, be cool with it because this is for you. This ain't for nobody else. This is for you, baby. But yeah, you wanna have that goal in mind because what you're gonna do with that goal we'll talk a lot about in the next steps that we'll be giving you. But you have to start there because if you're trying to pull ideas from other places, that's cool maybe as inspiration, but you don't even want to go too far down that rabbit hole because again, you need to focus on what you are looking to do.
What's your abilities and
your desires. What it is that you're dreaming of, but you got to start with your plan.
With your plan, definitely, because if you don't, you want to find yourself just thinking and not have nothing
else.
It'll
just be a bunch of creative ideas of what would be cool if I did this.
And there will be no manifestation of anything taking place.
Yeah, and poor execution is not going to get us anywhere, guys. It won't work.
No, it's not.
It just won't work. And so we want to help you live your dreams, and it's going to start with a plan. With a goal, baby.
Yes, because remember, he who fails to plan plans to fail.
Ding, 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 ding.
And we don't want you to do that.
No, we don't. We love you too much, and we want the best for you too much.
Yes. So here's where you start. We're at,
with step number one.
With step number one.
So now you can dive right into step number two after you at least have that goal as your plan.
That's right. And the next thing, once you zero in on it, and you may have a couple of thoughts, but you write them down.
Exactly.
Write them down.
You're going to write the vision, people.
Write the vision. You don't want to say, oh, and you know what I have found? When thoughts come to your mind, you should jot them down. And one good thing about it, we have a cell phone now that we have a notepad.
That thing barely leaves our hand.
No, it doesn't leave our hand, except for when we go to sleep, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is that you can jot your thoughts down right then. And when you have a moment, you can go back and kind of let it resonate with you and see what it is that's coming forth out of it.
And let me tell you, even if it's like one of those things, if you're driving and an idea comes to you, I don't love nothing better than a good voice memo, honey child. Let me tell you, I will leave myself a voice note so fast because it allows you to still capture the moment, to capture the idea.
Yes.
You know? So you might not be able to physically write the vision at that point in time because, of course, you might be driving, you might be in mid-conversation with someone, but you can whip your phone out all the same and record a quick voice memo reminder. You know, if you have Siri, you'll tell Siri, hey Siri, leave me a reminder or let me leave a voice memo. Same thing with Google. You can leave a voice memo or leave a reminder, and it will literally, your phone will remind you of it once you tell it to remind you, say a 15-minute reminder, an hour reminder, so that you can write it down later.
And so we have no excuse for not accomplishing what it is that we so desire to do because we have so much right at our fingertips.
Access.
Yes, the great access that we have at our fingertips.
Through our celicus. That's, slang for cell phones for those of you that are listening and aren't familiar with such terminologies.
Okay. Moving right along. But yeah, so we're gonna remember you got to start.
Yeah, that's step one.
Step one
is start with a plan. Think about what that goal is, what that dream is for you. And then step two?
Write the vision.
That's it.
Write the vision.
That's
what
all.
do you expect? And then let's move on to number 3, something that is very personal.
Yeah.
That, you know,
this is important.
Yes, you've got to encourage yourself. Self-motivation has to take.
In some circles, they'll call it self-talk.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they'll call it self-talk because you're able to literally, almost like the affirmations that we should have in the mornings and before we go to bed, to remind ourselves who we are, and who we are is important because it reminds you of what you're capable of. So self-talk is a way to execute that in a way that is strengthening you from the inside out.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. You're strengthening yourself, and you're motivating yourself, and really getting yourself at a point to believe that, hey, listen, because when you say something long enough, you start to believe it.
Yeah.
And so this is what you want to do. And, I'm thinking about David. People always talk about David, the shepherd boy, and how he encouraged himself,
Yeah, he encouraged himself in the Lord.
In the Lord. And we have to have that same mentality. There is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
We just have to remember that the wheel has already been invented. Let's just take advantage of it.
Right. Because you can think of an idea, you can create that goal, that plan, and you can write the vision and do all of that. But then there's going to be a certain point where you're going to have to encourage yourself. There's going to be levels of disappointment or levels of just discouragement that are going to happen because that's just life.
That's just life.
And anything can trigger it because it depends on what your triggers are. So it's one of those things where in the business consulting world that I'm in, we refer to it as knowing your why, where you narrow down what it is that you're like dreaming of, but why is that the dream? Like, why is it that you want to do this? Because it can't just be about money. It can't just be about fame, because those things are fleeting.
Yes.
In 1 minute you'll have, the money, and the next minute a bad investment will wipe all of that out. And then what do you have? You got to have something of substance that's there. So, the self-motivation or the self-talk is really just knowing your why, because again, these are the things that are going to help you fulfill the dream that it is that you're like trying to work and build towards. So knowing your why is one of those things for those of you that are, just learning these terms and maybe unfamiliar with the term, but maybe the concept of it is starting to click for you. Knowing your why is something that is going to hold you down when things get tough, when things get difficult, when the road gets real heavy and things seem like they're falling apart. Your why is what's going to hold your feet to the fire.
Because that's what you believe.
Yep, exactly.
That's what you believe.
And what you, at this point, know.
No, absolutely.
You're not going to be shaken off of what you know.
That's right.
Not what somebody told you.
That's right. And these are things that are so important to keep you on the right path of accomplishing what it is you desire to accomplish. It will keep you
on the right path because difficulty is going to come.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just a test of faith and let you know for yourself if you really, really want it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the thing. Sometimes these things come.
We don't always want things for the right reasons.
Yes. Right. That's true.
We were talking about social media in our previous episode, and a lot of these ideas that people have are just made up because of what they've been introduced to because of social media, but not because it's really in them to do
it. That's
and
right.
We are maybe going to help you today, hopefully prayerfully work through that so that you can get to the nitty gritty.
And that's what it all boils down to, because when you are determined and you know within yourself that this is something that you truly want to do, when you truly want this to take place, there will be nothing that will get in your way that would cause you to change your mind. To change your mind, and this is that
focuses you.
Yes, it does. That's a good thing right there. You're right about that. It will make you get in focus and
For some people, they were wilding out until they realized that they were going to have a child. And they started reprioritizing things and saying, you know what, this child means everything to me. And I'm going to see that I'm going to make sure that they get everything I didn't have and more.
That's right.
And that becomes their why. Your why might be your child because you want to give them every opportunity that maybe you weren't afforded, or just because, you realize that things are different now because you have a child. The priorities shift and change dramatically, or at least they should. And so, that could be your why. It could just in general be your family. Maybe you're like me and you come from a family of people who are, gritty and hustling to like make it work and make things happen in an entrepreneurial space. And you're like, man, I really want to do this with my family. I want to make sure that we can win together, whatever that may look like for you. That's your why.
And you know what, when you said that, I've shared this with you so many times about my desire to go to college. And I told you, and I'm going to share this with our radio listening audience, because I believe that this will, hopefully it will encourage somebody to go forth in what they desire. And now, coming from a family where there was very little substance as far as finances and having a whole lot, we had the bare necessities. We had the bare necessities, and we were happy. One thing about it,
never felt like you were missing out.
No. I had a beautiful childhood. It was nothing that I regret. That more money would have helped, but I mean, as far as growing up and having a good time and just being loved, that was you were
living life fulfilled.
But I wanted to go to college, because I saw that was a means of me. That was the why. I didn't have to have less when I became an adult, because I knew an education would afford me what I needed to have to get what I wanted.
That's real.
So that's that's why I wanted to go to college, because
that was your why.
That was my why, and that's why I shared that, because you just have to be, and I was determined, and it wasn't easy getting there.
Yeah.
But I got there.
Because you had your why.
Yeah.
When things did get difficult, you were able to focus and be determined.
That's right.
That was the difference maker, because you knew that you didn't want to live the exact same life that you came from. You knew that more was available to you.
Absolutely, because you could see it every day.
Yeah.
And it was out of reach, so to speak. But when you know that when you have the vision.
Exactly.
When you have the vision, you can strive towards it and you can accomplish it, because it's attainable. Anything that you set,
it's attainable.
It's attainable as long as you have your steps in place.
Right, exactly. And you know what, guys, this conversation is nowhere near done. We're going to give you guys some more helpful tips and tools that are going to help reel in the focus and get you to a place where you can be determined, or if you're already halfway through these steps with us and this is just encouraging to you, well, you stick right by the station, because we'll be right back with more. You're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. This is the Digital Leap, and we'll be right back, y'all. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. We are back. You're listening to The Digital Leap, y'all, with your host, CookieTruth and
Blanche Straighton Robinson, the Watcher.
Yes, and we are having an amazing discussion today about planning in a practical way that's going to help you execute your goals and your dreams more efficiently, so that you're not all over the place as we are now into a whole new year. And I'm hoping that you want to get on the good foot. So we left off talking about steps 1 through 3. We talked about step number 1 being the plan, being the goal itself. And then it was number 2, which was
vision.
Write that vision.
Write it.
You got to have it, because it can't just be the concept. It can't just be the idea living rent free in your mind. You got to write that thing down.
Write it down, and you see it, and it'll be there and make you want to do it.
As a reminder. And then number 3 is to motivate and to know your why, because when things get challenging, and it will, I guarantee you that, you will have your why to help focus you and bring you back, so you can be the determined side of yourself and fight through it.
Because when you are stable, that's what the why does for you. It stabilizes you to the point that you're not going to be shaken. Yes, if like the palm tree, I like to think of the palm trees, about how the wind and adversities come, and that palm they blow,
bend, but they don't
break, and they don't uproot either. They stay right there. So when you have that stability in your mind to say that my why is going to happen, you can go forth, and then you start making specifications as to what it is, how you're going to accomplish, and what steps that are going to take place to get you there.
Which brings us to step number 4.
Yes.
So talk about step number 4, which is the how. And from what we want you to take away from this, the how is really, really going to get into some of the like creative function, but a little bit of the strategy. So it's now going to be, a little bit of your creative ideas really like flourishing, but also how you're going to execute those ideas.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to do research.
Yes.
You
have to start there.
You have to do the research and find out what are the nuts and bolts of the thing that's going to be needed in order for you to get to fulfill your why. Because like right now, I was telling you previously that I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to become a teacher. And the funny thing about it, as a first grader, I can remember as if it were just yesterday, I was sitting in my first grade class and my teacher was up teaching, and she was teaching us the alphabet. Just, out of the clear, the thought came to my mind, that's what I want to be, a teacher. And that stood,
it just dropped in your spirit.
Yeah,
just
kaboom.
Like
and it was something that stayed there, and it just really had me stabilized to the point that every step that I made from that point was geared toward becoming a teacher.
Right.
And so this is why it's so important that you have your why, and then you start building upon that, finding out what it takes. And we know to become a teacher, you had to go to college. It was, so I knew that was my the nuts and bolts of what I had to do.
That was going to be a part of your how, was actually going to college, because that was going to get you to the goal.
That's right. And that's very important.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that, these are all things that some of you will already know, of course.
Yes.
But the point is we're breaking it down so that you understand how important this is.
Yes.
Each one teach one. So we can't skip over these things just because some of you may already know it, because not everybody does.
That's
not everybody
right.
has
and as
the practicality of it all.
And as we said earlier, everyone is not at the same place.
Yeah, everybody's not at the same level, and we just have to kind of help you guys along the way, because this is helpful. So talk about step number 5.
Make an action plan.
Ooh.
Yeah, make an action plan.
Okay. So with the action plan, I know that this is going to dive way more into that research that we were talking about, and making sure that action plan really, really specifies now more into the how. So it's like, okay, the research gave you the how, and now the action plan is going to break down the steps within the how. So it might be research, get the phone number, get the email. The action plan is call the phone number and email the email address.
And get in touch with whom you have to get in touch with.
Right. So it's now breaking that, last step, number 4 of how, down even more, so that you're not just doing all of this work but no actions involved with it. Faith without works is dead.
You took the words out of my mouth, because certainly we have to put action. We have to put some movement to whatever we do, because that's what's going to bring about the results that you want and looking for. And then we've just kind of moving on to another step. Set a deadline.
A deadline, yeah. Now I will say this. The thing about your action plan and even your how is to make sure you're not overwhelming yourself with this like super long to-do list of things, so that your action plan can actually be actionable, meaning stuff that you can handle, things that you can do.
That's a good point.
So that's why a deadline is important.
Yes.
Because if you have just loaded yourself up with a load and load pages worth of action steps and all of this stuff, your deadline ain't gonna matter. It's going to come and go.
Something that I always say at the end of my live at 5 is that keep it simple, saints.
Yes.
And that's what you want to do. You really want to keep it simple.
You want to keep it simple because you want to be able to accomplish something. Yes. And here's a cheat code for you guys. You want to be able to give yourself simple goals so that you can follow all of these steps. And then when you get to the action of it and when you get into the deadline of it, you're allowing yourself a win. You're allowing yourself a win.
And that's the ultimate goal.
Because life be lifing. It gets hard sometimes. And you want to be able to have a win.
Yes, because any win is a win, and it's going to leave you feeling great.
Yes, you're going to have a more positive outlook. You're going to have a better attitude, because when you can celebrate a win, that's going to increase your focus. That's going to increase your desire to want to complete another goal.
Yeah, and that dopamine that is released, it's going, because and that's always what motivates us, is something that it's, the brain is so unique that
instead of looking for social media to fulfill those dopamine desires, you can actually do something productive for yourself and for your business or for your family, whatever your why is, whatever your goal is. You can do something productive, and that's why giving yourself these small wins, even, because that's the thing. I don't want people to feel like they can't do it because they've given themselves way too much work.
That's true.
Because some of our dreams be lofty, and if it scares you, it probably is a good idea. It probably is a good thing, even if it scares you. But you still got to chop that thing down into smaller pieces so you can win.
Yes. Remember, step by step,
day by day.
Day by day, little by little.
I remember that was a show.
Precept by precept, little by little.
Yeah, I remember that was like a show or
step
something.
By step.
Step by step, day by day. I don't remember the rest of the song.
Yeah, and I don't.
That was the theme song. Yeah. Anyway, that was a quick aside.
I guess we have taken a digital leap.
Yeah, that was a oldie but goodie for me. I don't know. That wasn't something you was watching.
No.
But no, deadlines are so important. So we want you guys to understand, like, each piece that we're giving you, each step that we're giving you is going to be like building blocks in order to get you to the end game or the goal that you have. And so once you've done those actionable steps, once you have that deadline,
you can post your plan. Because when you see it, it will get you to it.
Yeah. So now here's the thing, though. When you tell people post their plan, they're gonna be thinking about social media.
Oh, please listen. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out, because yes, sometimes that's how we mess up. We want to
tell people way too quickly,
and we
then be mad when somebody steal our idea.
or we get disappointed, or we get we feel a little dejected, or we get we just feel.
Yeah, you start feeling low and down in the dumps, like, oh man,
and then you got to encourage, and then you got to encourage yourself because you feeling all bad.
Or you try and get revenge.
Oh,
that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother thing. No.
But when you say post the plan, that's for you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
So like a popular thing now is a vision board, and how people will have their vision board and they'll put it on display and they'll have that as their focal point. Well, it's no different in the sense of having this plan that you've put together, including your why, including those actionable steps, including even the deadlines. You want to, if you're using Post-its, put them up on your mirror or put them up in your room, put them somewhere where you're going to see them on your refrigerator, something.
Yeah, for your eyes only.
Yeah, as a reminder.
As a reminder, yes, and something to pray about. That's another thing.
For sure.
We started out talking about prayer. Prayer, works in many ways. We don't have to limit it to just one thing or anything.
And you can ask God to really help you execute this plan because you're trying your best to be productive. You're trying your best to accomplish a goal. And as far as like for me personally, Mom, one of the things that I always pray is I'm like, okay, well, I don't believe that this idea just came solely from me in and of myself. So if you gave me this idea, please help me bring it to fruition. Because I want to be able to accomplish what's for me to do. And that can be a prayer for you guys. I give that to you for free.
You don't have to pay for that.
Yeah. So having that plan, having something that you can see as a daily reminder is so important to encourage you and to keep you focused.
That's the thing, because we can so easily be off track because of so much that is happening in the world.
And things are constantly being thrown at us
and changing, and just
it's
so
always
much.
Some news update. There's always some trend, whether it's a funny video, whether it's a sad video, whether it's an in-between video. There's always something that's vying for our attention. There's always something competing for our attention.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure that we're able to see that vision. And if you are a super artsy person and you want to like convert everything that you've been writing and everything that you've planned out with these steps that we're giving you into a vision board, then do that too. So that it looks cute, it looks pretty, it's aesthetic, whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that would give you great motivation in itself.
I would hope so. Yeah,
I'm sure. Just to know that, you see yourself at work.
Yeah.
When you see yourself at work and you want to, because one thing about working, when you work, you want to see some manifestation of that. You want to get, we go to work, so to speak, because we're going to earn a pay.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in a different way, but you got an expectation of something, getting something out of it.
Yeah, because you want to see what you're working on actually pan out in some way.
Yes.
Like you want to you want to feel like you're making progress in some way or another.
Yes,
and that doesn't always look the same. Like progress can look very different. It can look like either getting educated on a topic even more than you were before. It can look like networking, making connections that you didn't have before. Those are all a part of progress.
Absolutely.
Because it is building what you're building. It's adding on to it, which leads us into the next step, actually.
Yes. Speak up.
Now again, to preface this doesn't mean shouting it out all over the social media.
I hope we made that point very clear.
I just got to remind people, because that's just where our mind goes, But speaking up is tying into what we were just talking about, how now you can learn a little bit more about what it is that you're trying to do by, reaching out to people that may be in the same industry or people that maybe have a little bit more experience than you, somebody that you can learn from, and people that can help. So if you're trying to raise money for something, you'll obviously need to speak out, but people don't usually like to give to things that don't have a plan. They just don't, because it's like, well, where's this money going?
Exactly.
I don't want to just be blindly giving money without knowing more.
And then people are not always positive thinkers.
Oh, that's a fact.
And so that's why you want to speak very discreetly, I would say, in order that you can keep your vision.
Yeah. You're wanting to talk to people that, again, you can glean and learn from people that can support you, and that way you're building more of what it is that you've been planning through these steps that we've been giving you. Because if you can, like, say, for example, do an internship or a mentorship of some sort, you know how much you can gain through something like that, just from the education and the experience
and the connections that you,
the networking of it all. So I mean, it's so much that goes into all of these like steps, but I hope that we're helping people understand like the full concept and how it is a building block, and each block that you add builds more of everything that it takes to accomplish a goal. The structure gets stronger every time you add one of these steps. Every block it gets stronger, and I love that we can discuss these kinds of things, because hopefully we're helping somebody.
Absolutely, because like I said, we're in the middle of the month already, and it's still not too late.
2023.
Yes, and it's still not too late for you to put a plan in motion
and get on the good foot.
Yeah, and you can sing like James Brown. I feel good. I know that I would now.
So you know what? We're gonna play that for the people, because that's exactly what they need to hear. They need to hear that it's all right to feel good, because they are reaching their goals and they're doing
plan and action.
Yeah, they're doing what it is they got to do to reach those goals, because they're using these steps that we provided them today. That sounds all right to me.
Sounds good to me.
So you're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere, y'all, because we'll be right back. Hey, you're back to WDRB Media, voice of the community, and this is The Digital Leap with your hosts, CookieTruth and
Blanche Rayton Robinson, the Watcher.
Yes. So we were talking about these steps, making these plans and writing these visions, and we got to have a goal for this in order to accomplish what it is that we want to live out as our dreams.
Because we don't want it to stay in our minds. We want it to come out and come
to fruition.
Yeah, so it'll manifest itself. So we're going to continue on in this last segment here about some things. You make plans, but I want to let you know, if you don't make plans, there are things that take place too. The same way you make plans and you have your steps that you follow. When you don't make plans,
there's consequences and repercussions
that you're going to face. So, and the one thing about it is that the unnecessary actions that you take, that you because you didn't plan out what you do, you just may overdo things.
Yeah, you end up spinning your wheels. Lord knows I've been guilty of it, because you're doing so much trying to figure it out, because you're lacking a plan.
Yeah, and you're just making unnecessary steps,
and then you'll burn yourself out,
and then you won't accomplish what it is that you desire to accomplish.
You'll just be tired.
Tired.
And you know what else? This is another, I guess you could say, consequence and repercussion, is when you are spinning your wheels and you are burning yourself out because you don't have a plan. You can physically be sick.
Stress will come in.
Yeah, it'll be stress, or like literally your body will shut down because you're tired, and so you might have a cold, you might have the flu or something, because your body has overexerted itself, and now you're physically having to recover because you didn't make a plan and you just did too much.
And then and necessary actions that you should have taken, you overlooked it.
Right.
You
either overlooked it or you just weren't aware, but either way, the consequences are still going to be there.
That's right, because you didn't have specific steps to follow to get you to where you need to go.
But after today, that's a thing of the past.
We're going to be successful, girl.
Yes.
And efficiency has to be in place too.
Yeah.
We want to be efficient about things. We just don't want to do things haphazardly.
Yeah, you don't want to spin your wheels wasting time. Yeah. If you can save yourself some time, because that's the one thing you ain't getting back. You ain't going to get time back.
Say bye.
2022 is gone.
It's gone, and you won't see this again.
Nope.
So you got to take advantage of the now, because this is where it's at.
Yeah, and efficiency, that's the first thing I think of, is like efficiency means that it's allowing me to save time, or buy back my time, where I'm able to accomplish something and get where I am not allowing time to just be spent unnecessarily
and overlooking things that you should have included in what it is that you needed to do. Yeah. And opportunities will be overlooked too, because
now I do believe that what's for you is for you, but you also have to be in position. So opportunities will definitely go and never return if you're not in position to receive them.
Right.
So that's one of the things that a plan helps you do, because when you have a plan, that's what's preparing you for the opportunity.
Yes.
Because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Okay? Because the plan is preparing you for the opportunity.
All right now, girl.
You like that?
Oh, I like that.
All right now.
I like that a lot. And we have to also remember, risk will be unseen when you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And sometimes.
So you get caught off guard, be caught like a deer in headlights, not knowing what to do.
And that's not a good place to be.
So that makes me think of people that go through like emergency training, so that when bad things happen, you're not panicking.
Yeah.
You're able to focus your mind. You're able to think, oh, I trained for this. I prepared for this. It goes back to that preparation.
And that's something that I always say too, that you don't want to be like Chicken Little, running around with your like a chicken with your head cut off, talking about the sky is falling. The sky is falling.
The sky is falling. We've heard that story before. At least some of us have in school and other places.
And so you don't want to get in that position, because it's not comfortable.
You don't want to put yourself in that position, because it's not efficient. It's a waste of time. And again, time is what you cannot get back.
And then when you don't have a plan, you may have to redo a lot of things you didn't have to do.
Goes back to spinning those wheels, wasting time, because now you're having to repeat things over and over again.
Yeah, just doing needless stuff you didn't have to do,
Yeah. Wasting money and time. Lord Jesus, they don't want to do that. But that's like they're video game people out there. So I'll use this as an analogy, right? So you're playing a video game, and there's levels within the video game, and there's checkpoints that allow you to reach a point to where it'll like save where you last left off. That'll be a checkpoint, so that you don't necessarily have to start the whole game over. You'll start with that last checkpoint. But as you complete certain levels, there'll be like these bosses in between. So you got to beat a big bad boss before you can get to the final level, before you beat the head boss, right? So how I think of this is where you're not spinning your wheels, wasting time and money in a way to where you have to keep starting a level over and over again. Because it's the worst possible thing if you're ever playing any kind of game to have to keep going through the same level because you can't get past that
Remember
level.
that movie Groundhog Day?
Oh, God. Who wants that? Just got to keep going through the same day, the same thing over and over and over again.
To the point you learn the lesson.
I'm angry thinking about it.
I know, it's frustrating, you know.
Nobody wants that.
No, not at all. So it's very necessary for us to be mindful that we put things in perspective and having it planned out. So
laid
that we
out with a plan.
Yeah, so we don't have to have those moments of repeat.
Yeah. You have to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success, because not everybody has people that are going to help them and do it for them or even prepare them. You have to do a lot of it yourself. And that's why we wanted to talk about these things today, is because it's important for us to know. It helps us live a more fulfilled life when we have access to this type of information.
Absolutely. And, you know, just as I was thinking about that movie Groundhog, it's just kind of, you know, and that's what happens. And this can make you lose focus, and you might just throw your hands up and say,
make you want to give up.
Yeah, just say, you know, forget it. I'm not doing anything.
Humbug.
Yeah, and you don't want to, you don't want that to happen. So
hopefully, because your dreams shouldn't have to die. They shouldn't. They shouldn't have to die because of discouragement or because of groundhog syndrome. We'll call it. I didn't diagnose this thing today. Groundhog syndrome. Book it. but yeah, so it's one of those things where we're hopefully giving people those practical steps and tools that are helpful. Because nobody's dreams should have to die, but it is a matter of having the proper steps.
Because sometimes in your plans you may have to make adjustments, and those adjustments may cut out some unnecessary things.
Adjustments, also known as pivots.
Yes,
that's another word for those of you that may be in the entrepreneurial space, because something that 2020 taught all of us is that sometimes you have to adjust.
Yes,
sometimes you have to pivot, because there are going to be things that are completely out of your control, that are not within our realm of normalcy at all, and you have to just do the best that you can.
And help sometimes is not always readily available.
No, because people are just trying to figure it out as they go.
And it may become difficult, you know. So you're going to have to, you know, realize that you want to plan, so and you have that that stability, that you know that why.
Yeah, it'll hold you down.
It'll hold you down. Yeah. It'll hold you down. So
it will definitely hold you down. And I'm grateful that we were able to talk about this today.
Yes.
And we would love to get some feedback from you guys.
Please.
Again, you can reach me on IG at CookieTruth. That's CookieTruth at CookieTruth on Instagram. And Watcher, you can be reached.
Yeah, God's for you.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, yes. We want to hear from you, because we just want to know that you're listening. And we want to encourage you. And
those prayer requests.
Yes, and we want to know that, you know, we're saying something that's helpful, you know. And we need encouraging too, you know, when you respond to us, it encourages us. So let's do one for another.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just so grateful that, again, we got to talk about this with you all today, because the goal is to help you. The goal is to help us to see what the digital leap has to offer, and one of those things is information. That if we don't have nothing else, we got access to information. So we want to share that information with you, so we can all learn and grow together. So today we have talked about how to have a plan, how to properly map out that plan and execute it. And we're hoping that you have learned and grown through what it is that we've discussed. And again, you're tuned in to The Digital Leap.
And as we close out, please remember, let's continue our prayers for Damar Hamlin and Jeremy Rayner and all of those who we know that are in need of prayer. Let's remember humanity is the word that we want to
Yeah, because there are families still recuperating from the snowstorm that hit Buffalo and other regions that have suffered from very, very cold temperatures and pipes that have burst in Atlanta.
People have died in the storms. It's just so much.
Pipes have burst in the storm in Buffalo. Pipes have burst in Atlanta because of the cold temperatures.
Yeah.
And, people are suffering.
Yes.
So we want to just remember those people as well. So thanks so much for tuning in today to The Digital Leap. I'm your host, CookieTruth, and
Blanche Drayton Robinson, the Watcher.
We'll catch you next week. You're listening to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. See you next time.
Bye.